Now, I want you to write these things down, particularly if you're a worry ward. Worry ward. Worry afflicts you. Worry is like a cancer that eats at you. Worry will start small and then it'll increase until the point where it's affecting your daily living. You're so worried that you can't even sleep. You're so worried that you can't even eat. Worry afflicts you a lot like a debilitating disease does. When you worry and constantly, wallow in fears of what's going to happen or what might happen, then you know what? You might as well just, I don't know. It affects you in ways that it should never affect you. It is an affliction. Don't look at worry as just something that I do. Look at worry as a disease. Because that's what it is. And you know what? It's also contagious. Have you ever seen an adult that worries and then they got 3 little worrying children? You know what I mean? The adult is all feeble and scary and their children walk out all feeble and scary too. Because worry is contagious. Worry, once it's felt and once it's seen and once it's realized, it's easy to jump off on somebody else. How many of you guys remember the Y2K scare? Remember that mess? 1999. December the 31st. Everybody thought that all the lights were going to go out, that all the computers were going to stop. How many of you guys stockpiled? No, some of y'all lying. Some of y'all know. Y'all had your shotgun, you had your porky beans and your pantry, all that stuff, right? Now, it was widespread hysteria. It spread throughout not just the country, but throughout the world. Because worry, once it's felt, realized, and actualized, it infects and affects others in crazy ways. So number 1, worry afflicts you. Number 2, worry restricts you. Worry keeps you from doing things. Love my sister to death, but she has an irrational fear of flying. She's never flown. She never will fly. Which means she'll never be able to see the Eiffel Tower in person. She'll never be able to experience the ruins in Rome in person. Heck, she won't even be able to go to the Bahamas. I mean, let's snatch away a 14-hour flight. She won't even be able to go on a 6 or 5-hour flight to see the Bahamas. She has restricted herself. Worry keeps you in a box. It keeps you tied into, locked into horrible ways of living and thinking. Worry restricts you. God never meant for you to be restricted by irrational, unnecessary things. He gave you this world so that you can enjoy it, so that you can explore it and experiencing it. Stop wasting your time wallowing in worry and let yourself out of the box that you've created for yourself. Worry will keep you in the house. Worry will keep you in your neighborhood. Worry will keep you connected and attached to horrible relationships. Worry, just worrying over things that are unnecessary. It restricts you. Number 3, worry evicts you. Now, restriction is being kept in. Eviction is being kicked out. Worry will take you out of opportunities and take you out of situations and take you out of wonderful, occurrences in your life. Worry will make it difficult for you not just to step into new things, but it'll also make it difficult for you to stay. I mean, some people are so worried about change. Worried about things shifting and changing. We talked about this last Sunday. All of a sudden they hear that their company is changing, things are going to, be rearranged, things are going to, be brand new. And so rather than rolling with the punches and flowing with the change, I'm going to quit. And then they end up, unemployed for the next 7, 8, 9 months, all because their worries overtook them. They evicted themselves from a wonderful opportunity. Worry will evict you. It'll cause you to take yourself out of position or have somebody prematurely take you out of position because you're sitting there biting your nails over something you really don't have any need to bite your nails over. Worry is a killer. And you know what? David understood that. David writes Psalms 37 as he's literally running for his life. Saul and his armies are after him, trying to take his life. So in the midst of this chaotic an uncertain situation, David writes this comforting, wonderful passage as a reminder, not just to himself, but to those that would eventually read Psalm 37, that the last thing that you should do when you're in a chaotic situation, an uncertain situation, or any other situation for that matter, is inundate yourself with worry. He starts out in Psalm 37 verse 1 by issuing a directive. He says, do not fret. Fret is an old school word for worry. He says, don't fret over evildoers. He says, don't be envious of those that work iniquity. Now this is interesting. Like I said earlier, David is writing this as he's being pursued by the chief worker of iniquity. He's being pursued by King Saul and all of Saul's armies. They're coming after him with swords. They're on horseback. They've got chariots. A lot of them are men of war since they were little kids. And they're coming after him in hordes, trying to take his life. If there was anybody that had the right to worry in the history of the world, it was David as he's writing Psalms 37. He should have been worried about his next step. He should have been worried about who was on his team, whether he had any betrayers on his team. He should have worried about where he was going to take lodging. But you know what? He said, no, I'm not going to worry about any of that. I'm not going to fret. I'm not going to allow what's coming after me to consume me. I'm not going to lose sleep, listen, over people that I can't control. I understand and realize that God is in control of this situation, so I'm not going to sit up here and bite my nails over this situation. He even goes on to say in Psalms 37 verse 1, in verse 2, for like the grass, they'll soon wither. So why should I sweat it? Why should I worry about it when I already know that God has it in control? Listen, some of us need to take our cues from David because some of us are far too worried about people that we can't control. The thing that takes up most of our mind and our heart and our thinking is people that might be close to us, relatives, friends, family members, coworkers, whatever, that might surround us. We're worrying about what they're going to do, how they're going to feel, where they're going to go, what decisions that they're going to make. We're consumed a lot of times by 20, 30, 40-year-old people, and I've realized that I'm not going to worry about anybody that I don't control, anybody that's not in my sphere of influence, anybody that I can't directly influence. Why worry about it? Because they're going to do what they're going to do regardless. A lot of people worry about people that they have no reins on and no ability to direct either way. When I was a youth pastor, I remember there was a lady that came to get counseling, and she had, now mind you, her son was 19, okay? She came to me to get counseling because her son had gotten into some trouble. And she said, Pastor Isaiah, I don't want my son to end up in jail. I don't want my son to end up dead. I don't want my son to end up, having a baby out of wedlock. I just don't want my son in that predicament. So I made some drastic changes to my life to try to keep him from doing that. I said, well, what did you do? Well, I quit my job. We moved out of our apartment so that we could live with my mother, so that, he could have some further supervision. Now, mind you, he's 19. I really don't travel. I really don't go anywhere. I don't date. Because, I feel like maybe if I bring a man into his life, that's going to cause him to react. And, I just feel like, I've greatly restricted myself as a result of it. 19! You know what I told her? I said, okay, so you quit your job, moved out of your apartment, you're living with your mother now, okay? You're not dating, you're not doing anything for yourself. Say that you do all of that and he still goes to jail. Say that you do all of that and he still gets somebody pregnant. Say that you do all of that and he still dies. Then what's all that you've done worth? I said, here's what you need to do. You need to get you a job. Before you get you a job, you need to go on vacation. You need to go somewhere, and when you're away from him, you need to pray. And you need to say, God, I turn him over to you. I've raised him. I've done the best that I can. I can't make the choices for him. I can't make the decisions for him. He's ultimately going to do what he's going to do. So you know what? Right now, what I'm going to do is rest in your will and in your purpose for my life. What you need to do is allow God to take control, and you take your hands off the wheel, because the boy is 19 years old and he's going to choose to do whatever he's going to choose to do, whether you're there or not, whether you don't date or you do date. So what you need to do is buy you a little red dress, go out to the club. Did I just say club? Find a man and be happy and allow God to influence his life, because he's at the point now where he's making his own choices, where he's got to be responsible for his own life, and no longer can you put the reins in his mouth like he's a horse. And she didn't like that too much. But that's what we have to do as people. Because I guarantee, we're talking about worry today, and I guarantee for a lot of you guys, your major point of worry is behind somebody that you shouldn't really be worried that much about. Doesn't mean that you don't love them. Doesn't mean that you don't care which way they go. Doesn't mean that you don't have something invested in them. It simply means that you haven't yet realized that they're going to do what they're going to do regardless of whether you're crying over them or not. They're going to make the decisions they're going to make regardless of whether you're staying up late or not. They're going to go to church or not go to church regardless of your influence or not. So ultimately what you need to do is turn it over to God and allow God to handle the situation while you go to Maui. That's what David did. David had all these people hot on his trail. And at the end of the day, he said, no, I'm not going to fret. I'm not. I'm going to find me a cave and go to sleep. I can almost hear the horse hoofs coming in the back, but I'm still going to sleep because God has this. In verse 3, David lets us know where his trust was. He says, trust in the Lord and do well. Every now and then, listen, this is really important. Every now and then, in order to avert worry, you need to do a trust check. And you need to ask yourself, look introspectively, and ask yourself, what am I trusting in? Because if my trust was really in Jehovah, would I really be losing sleep? If my trust was really in the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, would I really have these gnawing, fears in my stomach? If my trust was really, sometimes you really need to be real with yourself, because I know you come to church, and I know you have faith in God, and I know you believe in the Bible, but it's so easy for your trust to be diverted between a lot of different things, which is why Proverbs chapter 3 says this: trust in the Lord with all your heart. Because it's easy for some of your trust to be here, some of your trust to be there, some of your trust to be over here. You trust a little bit in your money, and then when your money is funny a little bit, then you trust in your friends, and then as a third option, you go to God. And sometimes you need to stop and ask yourself, where is my trust? Right now I work in corporate America. I worked at Bank of America before I became the youth pastor at Berean Christian Church. And we used to go on these team building retreats. Come here, Pastor Darren.